Hey guys, it's Rita here with Empowerment and All That. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast. I want to let you know that I'm actually using Anchor as the easiest way to make this podcast. Anchor actually gives me everything that I need all in one place for free, which I can use right from my phone or my computer. The creation tools allow for me to record and edit my podcast so it sounds fabulous. Best part about it, though, is that they distribute it for me so I can be heard anywhere from Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and so many more. Want to know a secret? You can actually make money from this podcast with no minimum listenership. Download the Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started. Now back to the show. Hey guys, it's Rita here with Empowerment and All That, welcoming you back to your favorite podcast for female empowerment. You guys, I genuinely always thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for continuing to listen and subscribe and rate this podcast. You guys, because of y'all, I've made it to 700 downloads so far, and Canada just recently has a listener, so I wanted to give a quick shout out to Canada. I'm not sure who the listener is, but if you leave your name and you subscribe, I will pick someone for the next episode to give a shout out to. So, without further ado, I want to tell you guys I am interviewing today Elena Rodriguez. She is a Latina author of a book called Broken Stronger, 8 Non-Negotiable Steps to Break Free and Become Your Own Boss. And has she become her own boss, y'all? She has hit number 1 in 2 categories on Amazon and was literally just picked up by a national publisher. So her book will be coming to a shelf near you. Now stay tuned because she's actually going to announce a special prize for our listeners. Elena, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Rita. It is so wonderful to be here with you and all of your listeners today. Thanks for having me.
Oh man, the pleasure is all mine. You know, we were just talking a few minutes ago about how exciting it is to know and get a chance to talk to a Latina author. I mean,
Yes.
we are obviously growing in population in this country right now, but you are un orgullo hispano.
Thank you. Yes. It is a blessing and such an honor to be able to represent. I actually grew up and was born in Indiana. So there's even struggle with that because I was the only minority, growing up, going to school. I don't speak Spanish, but I'm learning. But there's such a stigma that goes with you're not Mexican enough, but you're not white enough, and culture and this and that. So it is a true honor to be able to represent our culture and show future generations of what Latina leadership can actually look like.
Absolutely. It's really interesting that you hit that topic. Just recently, Julian Castro, who's one of the political brothers from San Antonio, he was getting beat up in the media because of the fact that he doesn't speak Spanish. Now, my sister-in-law, who's married to my brother, obviously, she's from San Antonio, and it was a very hard lesson for us because my mom and our family at first was not excited about the fact that she didn't know Spanish. And when you meet her parents, it's like, you couldn't be more Mexican. You couldn't be more Hispanic than her family. And I'm like, this girl was raised being Hispanic. She knows what it is. It's in her blood, you know?
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So no, girl, I'm all about it. I used to be in that mindset, and I apologize now to everybody because of that, because I'm like, you know what? Sometimes it's standing in that ignorance of not actually knowing, right? Like,
yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, for me, being in Indiana, my parents were entrepreneurs. They were very successful, and they were kind of put through some experiences that were very uncomfortable, right? In that era. So they did what they thought was best and pulled me and my sister out of it so that we had more opportunities. And as you grow older, you can't take the culture out of you. You cannot take who you truly are out of it. And so I grew up with the struggle. I was struggling because there was a piece of me that just was not thriving, and I couldn't figure out what that was. And it wasn't really until these past few months, speaking with a very close friend of mine that grew up in LA, where he is like, girl, this is the piece of you that is fighting to get out because it's such a big part of you. And so that's why I'm learning Spanish now.
Well,
because I want to be comfortable in the set. I want to be comfortable. I don't want to feel uncomfortable, but that's how I've grown up, and I just have to own it. It is what it is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what I love about you is that you're doing this a self-awareness check and saying, you know what,
Yep.
I am going to learn my culture. I am going to learn the language. And that's a lot. That takes a lot. And that's amazing. Yeah. And truthfully, I mean, just from the little bit that I've gotten to know you, I feel like you are definitely a go-getter and a person who breaks through adversity in order to make sure that you're going to get to where you're going. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, it feels good. Mm-hmm.
So now, Elena, obviously things have not always been the best for you, right? Because I do feel like I want to dive into a little bit of your story. And such a powerful name for a book, Broken Stronger.
Yes.
Can you give us a little bit of your background and tell me like how you got to the point where you're like, yeah, I'm going to write this book and I want to teach people how to do something to get them in a better place?
Absolutely. The first thing that I'm just going to bring up is I don't know what anybody's beliefs or faith systems or any of that, but I have a God. He is my grand overall designer, my God, however you want to call that, whether it's a higher energy, love, master of the universe, Jesus Christ, like whoever that is for anyone. I don't talk religion, but he is my God. He is my everything. So that is why I have to put that out there, because it was in 2018. Well, actually, December of 2017, I had a major surgery on my neck. I have a whole new metal piece in my neck that literally could have either left me paralyzed or I may not have made it through the surgery. It was a very serious surgery. And during my recovery in February of 2018 was when I was brushing my teeth before bed, and my God, my grand overall designer, he had been saying, girl, you're going to write a book. You're going to write a book. And I kept thinking, no, you've got the wrong person. I'm not a writer. And for like 5 days, the idea, the thought, you're going to write a book, it just floated in my head. And I just thought it's going to go away. It will go away. Well, no, I'm brushing my teeth before bed in February. And I actually heard my God tell me, you're going to write a book. It's going to be called Broken Stronger. And I had like toothpaste running down my arm, everything. I'm like standing there like, whoa. And let me just explain like real quick. In that moment in the bathroom, I saw so many pain points of my life, like flash, like a movie trailer or like screenshots. My dad left when I was like 8. I ran away my high school year to be with a boyfriend who eventually got another girl pregnant. That broke my heart. My dad died of cancer. My stepdad died during a heart attack or during a heart surgery. And all of this pain it just broke me. But God was able to like scoop it up and he took it away. And he let me see in that moment how strong I've been, like how strong I am to be here and have gotten through all these points. But what happened is that was the beginning of 2018. And I started really focusing on Broken Stronger. I started a business, a coaching, Broken Stronger. It was there. And in November of 2018, just last November, my husband had a heart attack. And he was only 49 years old. And he was in the hospital for about 3.5 weeks on life support. And on Christmas Eve, he passed away. I had to make the choice to turn the machines off, and he passed away. Now, looking back, I now realize that God had to put me through that activity in the beginning of the year to make space for this amount of pain, but he also had shown me that he was capable of taking that pain away.
Wow.
And so to get through my husband dying on Christmas Eve, which is my absolute favorite time of year, Christmas is just my favorite time of year, was excruciating. But because of the work and because of my faith, I told myself that, it would have been okay for me to crawl in bed, to crawl into a hole, to not want to take a shower for a week at a time. I mean, that would have been okay. And everybody would have understood, like, you just lost your husband. But I thought, no, because when I work with people, I always let people know excuses are the number one cause of failure. So I don't believe in excuses and I don't buy into excuses. And I was in a position where I could have very easily went down a hole. But instead I thought, this is not an excuse. Get up, do the work that God has called you to do. And so I started writing my book, Broken Stronger, 3 weeks after he passed away.
Wow.
And here it is. Here it is, a number one bestseller on Amazon in 2 categories, and it's been picked up by a major publishing company. So you'll see it in bookstores here in the next couple months. But that's really, I know that's a lot of information, but it's the true journey. It really is. Yeah.
I think that's such a great thing that just hearing it, right? Like, you can normally tell when a person is still in a lot of like raw emotion, right? When someone's telling their story. And I think the fact that you have the ability to talk about it and you've been able to write through your journey, it sounds like you're just in so much of a better place. And I have to tell you, I'm so very sorry for what happened.
Thank you. Thank you.
I am so glad that the light shined inside of you, though, and you were able to continue pushing forward and do something so incredible to help people.
Yeah. And I think, one of the big things to keep in mind, because I shared my journey of while he was in the hospital. I'm on Facebook. I put I'm very transparent. So I really shared the journey. I shared videos. I shared, just things that were happening. But I think the main thing that really helped a lot of other people either stuck in their grief or going through it is realizing that while I was going through it, it still wasn't about me. Like this was a plan that God had for my husband at that time. It even though it affected me, it wasn't about me. This was his journey. This was God's plan for his life. And I had to honor that as well. And I think it really helped a lot of people to look at the pain that they were feeling a bit differently too. So if it can serve in that way, that's a blessing. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think something that you basically, to sum up what you just said, is basically like life happens for you and not to you. And it seems like instead of taking the victim role, and which obviously you are more than, you have the ability to do that. It's not like it would have been, you're a wife who just lost your husband. You decided to take that pain and turn it into something positive. And sometimes it takes years for people to get to that point. So I just want to commend you on that.
Thank you. That's my GOD right there.
Yeah. We all definitely go through some different grieving phases. I know for me, when my grandmother passed away, she was basically my other parent, and it was very hard. And it took me years, like on and off of like healthy, unhealthy practices for grieving. And I'm like, man, if I would have known you back then, I would have been like, Elena, help me out of this. Let me figure out how to be a little bit more productive and better about the grieving process. But
well, and it's a journey. It is like when my father passed away from cancer, that was in 2011, and I can't tell you I handled it the same. I made those crazy choices and started doing things that, just surfaced, but you learn from it, you grow from it, and it was all part of the plan. Like it's all just learning. So
yeah,
absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about this book here, ma'am, Miss Author.
Perfect.
Number 1. I love it.
Yeah.
So you have
my book, Broken Stronger. Yeah, it's it says 8 steps eight non-negotiable steps to break free and become your own boss. And I just like to let people know that that can be both um, figuratively speaking or actual becoming your own boss, like at work, but just basically becoming a CEO over your life. Like own yourself. That's the true basis behind it. Yeah.
So let's dive into these 8 tips. How did you develop these 8 tips? Were these just things that you were doing naturally, or was it something that while you were brushing your teeth that day and you're like, I'm writing this book, you already kind of knew these are the steps I've been taking in my life? How did that come to you?
It's pretty amazing, the process. These are all steps that over the years have propelled me to my next place. I like to think of myself as trying to be now for someone what I needed back then. So years and years and years of different trainings, different courses, different advancements, different all sorts of things. I kind of took the most critical components that actually changed my life and tried to combine them into one book so that the next person doesn't have to spend years trying to figure all these things out. I come from owning my own business for 13 years prior to working in the corporate world. And so I'm an award-winning entrepreneur. That business I had for 13 years was a fitness studio. I was a dance fitness instructor and a certified trainer. And I did that for 13 years and absolutely loved it and was successful and all that good stuff. Then right around me, there were about 5 corporate franchised gyms that popped up within like 5 to 10 mile radius. And those kind of gyms that you can use a key to just go in 24 hours, run on a treadmill, do your own thing. And I was physically teaching 40 classes a week by myself. Wow. So envision going to work for 40 hours, a Monday through Friday, but envision yourself on a stage totally beating your body up, pushing students, and you're working out the whole time. I knew I couldn't do that. I couldn't keep doing that. And hence the reason for my neck surgery, part of it. But all of those lessons of having to decide to start the business, run the business while I was a mom, run the business while I went through a divorce, having to close the business, and then going into my corporate job, I took a position I was very well overqualified for, but I had to take it. I had to get a job. And I promoted in my corporation in 12 weeks. I tripled my income in 12 weeks. Wow. And people thought I was crazy for going for a leadership position when I basically came in as a part-time. And I thought, no, like I have the abilities, I have the knowledge, I have the character, I have the skill set. I'm going to go for it. And I got it. And so being a corporate leader for 4 years, I've really combined a lot of the lessons learned. And I had to leave the corporation because I'm just an entrepreneurial person. It's in my spirit to do my own thing. And I thought, let me take all these lessons, let me start my next business. We'll write the book through it, but let me help other women now. Let me help other women now break free from staring at a clock every day behind a desk that they're just not inspired by, and let them know exactly what does it take to break free and start your own business. And for most people, it's not really what they think. And that's why I put this book together. Yep.
Well, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so you have a pretty cool acronym for the 8 steps, right? It's Mariposa.
Yes. Mariposa, which is butterfly. Yeah.
I thought that was beautiful. Yeah. Like that metaphor is so great in general. Like, going from the caterpillar, you could have called it like 8 steps to going from caterpillar, but you take the entire process and you just like take the most beautiful part of it and you give us these 8 steps.
Yes, because with mariposa, to me, it's the butterfly effect, which in essence is change one thing, change everything.
Mm-hmm.
And my belief is that one thing is you. Like it's really just you, and you can totally change the design of your life. And in the book, I give you the tools and the steps to do that. And so I did. I put my 8 steps to go with the acronym Mariposa.
Mm-hmm.
And to just touch base real quick for any of your listeners, like the M is magnify your desire, which is really like stop wishing already.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but if I go to a mall, I do not like to window shop. Okay. If I'm going because I want to get something. I know what I'm looking for. I want to go get it. And most of us, just window shop when it comes to our life, where we look from the outside and just stare in at all the things that we want or that we wish were different. And instead it's like, no, go in and get it.
Right.
Go out there, make the change. So that's the focus behind that step. And then I talk about, acknowledge your inner voice, which means that little voice inside your head, which we all have. That's the voice that told me I was going to write a book and it was going to be called Broken Stronger. Well, if I didn't acknowledge that, if I didn't respect and honor where I knew that was coming from, I wouldn't be talking to you today.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of us, and I'm sure yourself included, we hear those ideas. Sometimes the ideas seem so big, we think we're not worthy or capable of achieving them. But I teach you how to listen to those and actually act on them. And then, without going through every single step, but, I talk about revealing your strength. And when you go back and look at some of the things that you've gotten through that maybe at one time in your life, you thought you were never going to be able to get through this. I mean, we've all had those moments too. But when you can identify that, hell yeah, you did get through it. You're strong. Like take that strength, use that pain,
Mm-hmm.
and make it count for something. And that's what I've done, like with the death of my husband. Like, make that pain count. Don't just dwell in it, use it. And so we go through a couple other steps. The identify your fears, which means like, if you ever feel like you keep hitting that brick wall, like you take a step forward and then boom, now you're like 2 steps back.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason for that. There is an actual reason for that. And in order to break free and break through that wall, you have to know what to do when you get there. Like you have to know why you're there and how to work through it. And it's just a whole mindset. So these are critical steps that will actually change the design of your life. When people think of starting a business, they think of a website, they think of a logo, they think of a catchy title, and that is not business at all. Those are just the little sugar coatings on the top. If you don't have the solid foundation in place, your business will never succeed and grow. So I focus on, let's build a strong foundation, because then the options are limitless. Like your potential has no cap. So that's what I help people with.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I think people also forget that when businesses, the percentage of businesses that actually fail are pretty high, but the percentage of people who have started their own businesses and become, they fail and then they start another one, they fail and they start another one. And now it's like the second or the third time they try, why does it work? And it's like, because they were always grounded in that strong foundation, because they knew that they were going to be great at some point. I think that's such a great point that you brought up. It's like, when you hit that brick wall, are you going to stop just because you failed? Or was that your purpose to begin with? Like maybe you needed to pivot, maybe that wasn't, or you just need to shift. And if you're not in that right mindset, if you don't have that right foundation, that pivot's going to be really hard, and it might take you longer to get out of your own way.
Right. And one of the other things I like to really point out and ask people when they start on this journey is, do you want to be a business owner or do you want to be an entrepreneur? Because those are 2 completely different things. And a lot of times people don't recognize that. And the thing is when people start a business, they almost just trade working for someone else to working for themselves. Meaning Now they're on the clock for themselves. They end up working more hours, probably for less pay, and they're connected like 24/7. And that's why sometimes people think you're crazy for wanting to start a business on your own. Well,
Yeah.
that's trying to just self-employ yourself. Whereas an entrepreneurial mindset is going to develop ways to generate income, even if you're not there. Like it's not like you're having to physically work all these hours. It's designing the business to work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know these things going into it, you can very easily get sucked in to working more hours tirelessly for less pay. And so I really think it's critical to get those things in place before you set out to begin.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've met
Yep.
so many people who get to that point of burnout and they're just not knowing how to scale. And
Yes.
understanding that it's okay to let go of some of the responsibility because they're afraid that the
Yeah.
other person isn't going to manage the way they do. And it's like, do you want to manage? Like, what's your purpose of wanting to own a business?
Right.
Is it because you just want to work for yourself?
Exactly.
Or do you want to actually have an empire to grow from, right? Like, I want to retire, like I don't want to work forever.
Yep.
So yeah.
Me too. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, right. Well, hopefully this book is you're well on your way with your first book at #1 in 2 categories.
Yes.
I mean, that is just, it's such a great accomplishment. And you were just picked up by a national publisher, right?
Yes, I was. I received my letter in the mail just this past week, actually, picked up by a national publisher. We're having our phone call in the next couple of weeks, and I believe my book will be in bookstores, in a few months. Everything takes time, of course, but we're actually working on my book signing. So we'll be in book signings in my local bookstores, and yeah, it's happening. It's for real.
That's cool. Well, you have a friend down in Houston that'll be at your book signing. Be the first one with my first copy and be like,
absolutely,
yay! Cheering you on.
Yeah, definitely. And next time I'm out in Texas, I'll definitely look you up so we can, get together. Yeah.
Oh, I told you, this friendship has started and it's going forever, girl. You're stuck with me now.
Absolutely.
You can ask my friends.
Yeah, that sounds good.
It's a journey whenever you're my friend. You can't just be my friend and then that's it.
And that's it. Well, and I am you'll hear me now. Yeah, like anybody that knows me knows I'm always talking about locking arms. Let's lock arms, lift each other up. We're not always at our best every day. And when you're locking arms with everyone striving to be their best on the days that you're low, they're there holding you up, and it works both ways. And so I'm honored to be able to call you friend. This is awesome.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for that. When you said the locking arms, in the past, I wasn't the best female supporter or woman supporter. And it wasn't necessarily that I was against my sisters. It was more of we are almost taught to feud against each other. We're like crabs in a barrel instead of, like you said, linking arms and lifting each other up. And right now is the perfect time to do that. If you see a woman who's in need of something and you have the ability to support her, why not let her stand on your shoulders? She'll probably turn back down and pick you up after that.
Yep, absolutely. And one of the things that's in the book really kind of talks about that as far as business and your success, and whether it be relationships, connections, all of that, each of us are the selling point. It's each of us. So, I work with so many people that are in direct sales or multi-level marketing, type businesses. And a lot of times they lead with the product, whether it be, here's a makeup, or here's a face cream, or they lead with the product. But the thing is we could go anywhere and get that product. Lead with yourself. Lead with who you are. And I think that when people recognize their uniqueness and how awesome they freaking are, it's easier to lock arms with other people instead of feel like you have to compete with someone, because there's only one you. So there's absolutely nobody else that has what you have. And that's what builds your clientele. That's what builds your team. You know, it's you. It's not your product. It's not your service. And so I really focus on working on the individual, because when you grow yourself, that's when your business grows. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, you also
Mm-hmm.
do some coaching as well, right? Like, that's your
Yes.
main
Mm-hmm.
your main business now is consulting?
Yes. Yes.
So what kind of
Mm-hmm.
clients do
Yeah.
you normally take on?
The thing that's going to sound kind of funny is I prefer to talk with women and kind of feel where they're coming from, what are their needs. And if I honestly feel like I can't serve them, if I can't guarantee that I can help them, I will be honest about that. And I will try to direct them to people that I think might be a better fit for them. So to me, it's never about getting on the phone call and trying to make a sale. It is not that at all. It's about, let me help you become what it is that you're seeking to become. And so first off, I like to work with women because I feel like I can relate because I'm a woman.
Right.
So that's like my first thing. My second thing is, you know, I've been through a divorce. I am a Latina in a place where there's not many minorities at all. So I understand that piece of it too. But I'm really looking to work with those women that feel like they have just been knocked on their ass a time or two and just have lost that belief in themselves that they truly have what it takes to stand back up and move forward. And we've all been there. And I have gotten back up and I have moved forward. And therefore that is my gift. And so that's the person I'm looking for, is the woman that is, I'm sorry, I don't know if there's a beep going off.
No, it's okay. No worries.
But I'm looking for that woman that is truly going to work uninspired every day. Like, you know, just going to a job, knowing that there's something inside of them that is screaming to get out and they just don't know what to do. That's where I'm like, let me help you. Let me help you. And it's not saying that you're going to quit your job tomorrow. No, it took me about a year to put my plan in place, but it's very possible if you know what you're doing. And knowing that my husband died, we're not promised tomorrow. So for me, there's an absolute urgency, especially for women, to just quit wasting your time. You've got what it takes. If the idea is in you, you're already equipped to do it. You just need help. And that's where I come in.
Well, I am so glad to hear that you are inspiring and creating a new wave of women who are empowered to do exactly what they're put on this earth to do.
Yeah.
And you know, you're right. I mean, you got to quit wasting your time. It's so valuable and it's so short that we sometimes allow ourselves to focus on just the things that don't matter, like the weight and the heaviness of things that really tomorrow might not even matter, you know?
Absolutely. And, you know, as women, we talked about like not always being there to support each other. One of the biggest things is a lot of times we don't get started because we don't want to be seen starting at the bottom. It's an ego. It's an ego thing. We just don't want to be seen looking silly starting at the bottom. And everybody starts at the bottom. Like nobody starts, you know, anything without first starting and fumbling at the bottom. And if you got strong women locking arms with you during those moments, you're not down at the bottom for long. Let me tell you, take the lessons learned and apply them. And it doesn't take long for you to get exactly where it is you want to go.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I know when I first started this podcast, I was like, people are going to think I'm crazy. What am I doing? And it literally lit a ball of fire under my behind. I was like, I'm going to learn how to make a website. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I literally didn't sleep for 3 days straight because I felt so re-energized. And I was like, I am not going to let this technological thing that I don't understand hold me back. And I don't care if I look crazy to everybody on social media. Who cares? Because you know what? They're not doing it. And
absolutely. And it's in those moments I was probably up 3 days working on my own stuff. We could have been helping each other out.
I know, right? At least been like come on, you can do this, Elena. You got this, girl. Let's put some music on. We're going to pump it up and like keep ourselves motivated. Because, it can definitely be a little, and I don't know if you can attest to this, can be a little lonely sometimes when you're doing something that not the rest of your friends are doing and they don't understand. Yes. And it's like you do have to build your own community around the creativity that you are making, right? Like, for example, like, you know, I told you I was so excited to talk to you because I've been wanting to find another, especially a Hispanic Latina author. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's like you did it and you're doing all these things and, you know, you planned it out and you had this vision and this idea. And, you know, once you're around that energy of like creativity and momentum, it's almost hard to stop it because you start taking everything with you along the way. It's so weird.
And one of the examples I believe I put in the book is imagine like a bunch of flowers. Like maybe you planted like 10 flowers in a pot or something, but only one of them you are feeding like Miracle Grow or some sort of thing too. Okay. So that one flower is going to probably grow so much taller, bloom so much brighter, so much bigger. Not saying that the other ones aren't going to grow, but that one that is fed, nurtured with all that good stuff is just going to take off. That's what happens to us as individuals if we're feeding our spirit, we're feeding our knowledge, we're doing all of this, but it can be lonely because if you're surrounded with a bunch of girlfriends or family and none of them are doing anything to try to get ahead or improve, and you're going to find yourself kind of distanced from everyone. And it can be lonely. It can be sad. But don't hold yourself back just because there are others that don't want to go where you're going. Like you'll find other people at the same place that you are. You just might find them randomly and across the country, how me and you have found each other.
Exactly.
It happens. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to share that story, right? Like I literally have only done, at that time I'd had, well, I guess like 5 episodes, and this is my 7th, but you know, I met this other woman named Brandy who was on the Rise group for Facebook. Well, that's a whole nother conversation, but she was like, you need to join these other podcast community groups. And I started doing that. And then I joined She Podcast, which is where I think your friend gave you the recommendation to reach out to me. And I was like, that is just, if that's not a sign that I'm on the right track or that you're on the right track, I don't know what is. Like where people are just willing to connect the dots for you. And you're like, well, thank you. I don't even have to do the work. It's like, I'm already looking for this. And like, it just keeps happening. And like I said, it shows you there like these little reinforcements and like little gold stars that you get without even trying when you're on the right track.
Absolutely. I love that. It's just exciting. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and then I want to thank you so very much for joining me today on my show, Empowerment and All That. And I wanted you to go ahead and share what you're giving the audience for tuning in today.
Yes. Actually, for all of your listeners, I'd love to be able to give a downloadable copy of my book, Broken Stronger, for free. Just to say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting. And thank you, Rita, for having me. And if any of you out there are interested in receiving my book, the downloadable copy, all I'm asking is that you just send me an email. Send me an email to elena@brokenstronger.life. So that is ELENA at brokenstronger.life, LIFE. And in the subject line, just type Broken Stronger or free book or Rita or podcast, whatever you want to put in there. And I will definitely email you back myself and attach a copy of the book. And that just, yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you so very much. It's such a sweet treat for everybody who's listening. And I'll go ahead and also apply that to the show notes so that everybody who, if they might have been driving or listening to this at work and they're like, oh, I want to get that book. I'll go ahead and put it in the show notes so it's available to everyone.
Yeah.
And what are other ways for them to contact you in case, they might be interested in seeing if you can coach them through, this point that they are in their lives, or if they just want to chat with you and see how maybe they might be able to collaborate with you in the future?
Perfect. I am on Facebook. My business page is Broken Stronger. But my personal page as well is Elena Rodriguez Zehr, Zehr is my, my married last name. So I can be found that way. But yeah, direct message me even through my Broken Stronger page, or just, again, through that email. Send me an email. And I'm easy breezy that way. I'm very approachable. Nothing fancy. I'm not going to put you through my assistant to contact me here. Just send me a message and I'll shoot you one back. So definitely.
At least for now, right?
For now.
And once that book goes all over the country and she's doing her book tours, you're going to have to reach out to me, y'all.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, yeah. All right, Elena. Well, again, thank you so much for joining me. It was such a pleasure to have you. You have a great
Thank
evening.
you, Rita, and we'll talk soon. Bye.
All righty. Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Empowerment and All That. For daily inspirational messages, follow me on Instagram at Rita, RITA_Bautista, BAUTISTA 1111, or you can follow Empowerment and All That on Instagram and on Facebook. And remember, keep it positive or don't keep it at all.